Everything is in motion. This is one day at a time. Everyone has cancer, and this is where I battle mine. What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 6. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of Everyone Has Cancer with Cody Burnett. And hey, I'm Cody from the Quarter Cows, if you have not figured that out yet. I want to thank the Quarter Cows for giving me this soapbox, if you will, to this pedestal to where I can do my own show. If you want to know what the Quarter Cows is and you just don't know about it and you've just heard me talk about it, it's a YouTube channel that I have with some really good guys, August, Chris, Mike, and Matt. And, we do all sorts of like comic book stuff. We do video game stuff. We do a lot of opening, like YouTube, like, box openings for like Pokemon cards and stuff like that. We have a Twitch, we do a lot of stuff. We even have our own podcast that's like 30 some odd episodes strong, and growing. And, but yeah, if you want to know anything about any kind of superhero, since, that's not done to death yet, or any kind of like, video game, or you just want to see some of your favorite toys get opened, or if you just have a suggestion and want to know more about some of the dorky stuff that's out there as far as pop culture goes, hit us up. It's, facebook.com/quartercows. We don't have, you've heard me say it before, we don't have a YouTube account that's like, youtube.com/quartercows is like youtube.com/*/fish symbol $4935. It's one of those. So go to facebook.com/quartercows. You will find all of our stuff there. And through there, you can get to, this show right here, which is Everyone Has Cancer. Or check us out, check me out at facebook.com/Everyone Has Cancer with Cody Burnett. I believe that's my URL. I'll have to check that out. I guess I should probably do that before I start telling you where to go. You just know where I'm sending you. So, I'm trying to streamline this because I'm going to do things a little bit different today. One, I'm going to tell you obviously what the show's about, so I'm going to sound like a little bit of a broken record there. And then we're going to jump right into this story, I promise, which is like kind of the peaceful times. And, I was going to try and lead up into the BA house, which I'm still going to do. You may not know what the BA house is, only like that's kind of an exclusive group that knows that, meaning that it's only my friends that are as old as I am that really remember that place. And we'll get there, but there's something, I'm at some point I'm going to finish up that story. I'm going to set the timer on my phone, and like we always do, but this time I'm going to set it for 30 minutes. And I know we always go over a little bit because I'm a guy who likes to rant. I'm kind of liking my own voice, I guess. I'm a very wordy person, almost to a fault. Like damn near, no, to a fault. But the second half, I just want to talk about something that's very, very, very important to me. So, and something that I struggle with, and it has to do with a post I did recently on Facebook that I actually got some different reactions from it. And it's just really on my heart to get the message out there. So, but first, let's dive into it. And, like I said, introduction, tell a little bit of the story where we are so far, and then we're going to jump in and actually do what podcasts are, I guess, I don't know, they're meant for a lot of things. They're really just meant for a position for one to talk, but, we're going to do story time, and then, and then we'll jump into an actual just topic that I want to talk about. So, but yeah, this show is called Everyone Has Cancer. Don't get worried. I'm not saying you do. I'm not saying you have it. Everyone is, I guess everyone is capable of having cancer cells in their body, yes. But here's the thing, is in 2001, I was diagnosed with leukemia. Went into remission, we've kind of covered that in like a very, very fast, streamlined form, which I'll probably go back and, tell more stories, just that, but there's so much to tell, It's kind of like a sitcom or like The Simpsons. Like there's a reason, Bart Simpson's been, the same age for 25 years. There's a lot of stories to be had. Plus, the writers can't really make him grow up. But still, a lot more stuff did happen and all that. And, we'll get to it. And I'll try and think of like different things I left out. We're also going to have guests on here. But, and even now, I have people that contact me. Like, it's not like a whole bunch of people. We're talking maybe like one or two. And that's what it's all about, that contact me after listening to a specific episode. So 5 different times, someone that I know has contacted me and said, "Hey, do you want to hear my story?" And it's not the fact that they had cancer. It's not always that, because here's the thing. This is why it's called Everyone Has Cancer, is because I got sick and then I went into remission. And then in 2005, I relapsed and had to get a bone marrow transplant. And like I've said before, we're getting there. We'll get to all that. But you don't get sick alone. That's what a lot of people tend to forget, is you do not bear witness to all this illness by yourself. Everyone in your immediate area, you'll always know who your loved ones are, because those are the ones that are like most affected by it. Because when you get cancer, you've heard me say it before, you are the hub of the wheel of interconnected people, you're the hub of like a big spider web of people, and the bottom falls out, and then like everyone kind of, it's a war starts with you, and then everyone has their own little battles. So like I still, to this day, we're talking 12 years now for me, that I'm still finding out stories about, my brother, that, my mom, my sister, like just family members, like what they went through. Like just starting this show, it's opened up, just open a whole can of worms of like, the different stories that took place. It's almost like, I'm going to go ahead and be dorky, but it's in comic books when they have a big multiverse event. It's not just the same event for everyone. It's all these individual stories that all deal with the same thing. But yeah, I got better, and once I got better, I started hearing, from different friends and family members and different people that knew me, or like said they knew me, or whatever. They just tell me like what an inspiration I am, and how courageous I am, and how strong-willed I am, and all this stuff, and like I'm such a hero. Well, to me, what this hero did is lay in bed, cry, and throw up. Like that's, and take more pain medicine than the body can handle. Yeah, so I didn't really think I did anything really heroic. I didn't stand up and say, I'm going to beat this cancer. No, I laid in bed and cried and wish that if this cup could pass me, to please let it pass me. I didn't want anything to do with it. But, like once it happens, and you just have to deal with it. There's some fights you just find yourself in. There's no two ways about it. There's no walking away from it. There's no getting around it, And, forever I would have people tell me like a hard thing they were going through, like a domestic abuse, or like an addiction to, to something, like a physical, sexual, or mental, or verbal abuse that they went through with like a family, loved one, or significant other, or father, mother, brother, sister, uncle, aunt, like whatever, like there's so many different kinds of abuses out there. And then there, I'd hear about that. I'd hear about addictions to all sorts of stuff, to, all the way from drugs to porn to sex, and, even down to the illnesses, people getting sick with unknown illnesses, be it mental or physical, like physical being what I had, which ended up being mental, but, to a friend that I'm hoping to have on the show in the near future, that, like when it, that has had suicidal thoughts, and, and has to live with that. And, I'd sit there and say, well, I didn't do much. I don't know how you went through what you went through and came out clean on the other side. And they'd say, oh, no, it's, well, it's what I have to do. I'm not really doing much. It's not really that big of a deal. I don't know how you do what you do, So, and that's when it dawned on me that everyone has that big thing in their life. Everyone has that big issue in their life that they can't get around, that they can't see past. It questions your mortality. It's all encompassing, and it's all you can see. And it takes every bit of attention, strength, and perseverance to get through it. And it's something that no one is ever going, you may think that no one is ever going to understand the pain that you've been faced. And it's because it's completely unique to us. Where I had leukemia, someone else may have throat cancer, or someone is horribly asthmatic, or someone was molested at a young age, or someone was raped, or someone has contracted an STD, just there's so many different versions of it that this is just mine. This is what I did with mine. And it's something that there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's chaotic. It's something that you didn't ask for. You don't deserve. Because, you've probably heard me say it before, is that I think the word deserve is completely man-made, and obviously all words are man-made, but I think that's being deserved one thing really does not entitle us to anything. Then there's the old adage of, we never get more than we can handle. Yeah, we do. we do get more than we can handle. If we got exactly what we can handle, we would never have anything to overcome. And yeah, there's some things that come down the pipeline for each of us that you either overcome it or you're dead or you die, on the inside or physically, or you straight up literally die. But yeah, it's this. Everyone has it. They're going through it, or they're going to go through it, or they have gone through it. And what it's going to do is it's going to leave you wondering why this happened to you, why you've had to face all the brokenness, all the tragedy in your life. Well, I'm not here to give you the answers because I don't know them. I don't know there is an answer, because when it comes to the questions that we have, an answer is just really what makes the most sense to us. We're not looking for something we're not looking for something that's right. We're looking for something that gives us peace. And there is no peace when it's a chaotic storm. You can't say a tornado just came, stirred up because you were a bad person and it came right for your house and just so happened to destroy all your neighborhood, because it's not something we ask for. But how we give it meaning is doing what I'm doing now. This is me fighting what I've been through in my life. Because talking about it, what that's going to do is someone will hear it. If you hear my voice, then you hear it, and I'm being a success. Then I'm just getting my story out there. And what that's going to do is that I have the tools. I know how to get through, this has led me to a life of sleep apnea, to high anxiety and anxiety disorder. I've gone through the addictions to pain pills, which again, we'll go through that in a little while, addictions to all sorts of stuff. And I forgot where I was going with it. And that's probably because I, was addicted to quite a few things. But yeah, this, it's kind of led into different problems in my life. Oh, that's where I was going. And, now I've gone through the ringer and I have the tools I need to get through any kind of problem. Because, once you have cancer, a throat cold really doesn't mean much to you. A bump that might be infected doesn't really mean a lot to you. Because if you feel fine, you've fought the bear, you've fought the lion, so the wolf isn't really, that scary. But there are some people that are going through issues that they don't know how to go through. Again, I talk about it a lot, but I have a friend that, deals with suicidal thoughts, and it's not because they have a crap life, they have a wonderful life. They have a very wonderful life. But as far as, married, has kids, stuff like that, and very supportive significant other, but just struggles with stuff like this. And anytime she starts having those thoughts and it's getting really bad, they have a protocol they follow. They got a safe. They lock up all the sharp objects in the safe, and they start walking through, her reading material and stuff she's supposed to do. I really want her to tell her story because there is a person out there that has never dealt with these thoughts or does not know how to deal with these thoughts. Because, like she said, and I'm quoting her, is that we all have the tools and we can all have the knowledge and the tools to do what we need to do, but ultimately it's our choice whether we do something about it or not, be it for the better or for the worse. And unfortunately, another thing people don't understand is that things can get so bad in our lives that suicide sounds like a really good idea. And some people are just wired that way. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. It's no one is wired the same way. Everybody is different. And some people think that, you know what, maybe if I cut my arm a little, it'll make me feel a little bit better. It will release the pain. I had a friend way back when, this one girl that's how she explained it. She was a cutter, and she would explain like the whole like cutting her arm was what that did was release some of the, because there's so much pain inside, and it was like venting out the pain. And and I remember her telling me that. I've lost track of her years and years and years ago, but yeah, I remember her telling me that. But yeah, like that it just makes sense to some people. But if they would just talk about it, if they would just get their story out there, that's how you give it meaning. That's how you give it purpose. In BVS, Batman says that, like he found out at a young age that this world doesn't make any sense unless you make it. And this is how you make it make sense. I struggled for a long time wondering why this happened to me. And, you know what? That's what we're going to talk about because, that's where we're at. So, where we were in the story is I was home, I was getting better, and it was coming time to go back to school. That I was actually healthy enough to where I could get back into it. And like I said, let's talk about that for 30 minutes, and then I'm going to close out the show with talking about something that's very important to me. And I guess just something that really needs to be said. So you'll see what I mean. But all right, 30 minutes on the clock and go. Okay, so at this point in the story, I'm doing a little bit better. I'm hanging out with friends more. I'm getting out of the house more. But I'm still, there's some parts about me that are still very, very weak. I think it was another 2 years before I could walk around, but I could not run. There was I could kick my legs up as hard as I could, but it was like a very, just looked like a very sporadic walk when I tried to run. There was no speed behind it whatsoever. And, and that honestly, it took me a good 4 years before I could actually run a full sprint without any issues. But yeah, being up for too long I would need to rest and all that stuff. But one thing that happened, before we went to school is, went to St. Francis every Monday and St. Francis Hospital and get my blood checked. Had to do that for a while. Had to take the handfuls of methotrexate of chemotherapy. Had to take the steroids. Oh, the steroids. And and had to get a bone marrow biopsy every now and then, and had to get spinal taps for a very long time. Yes, I've heard of the band, but I don't know if you know, but a spinal tap is actually is a procedure. And you have to do so many of the spinal taps where you have to lay down on your side and they stick a needle in you and, they draw out some of your spinal fluid and then you lay there for a little bit, wait for your spinal fluid to, balance out and you're good. But I got to a point that I got so tired of getting, doing this whole procedure where you had to get knocked out and everything. So I just asked if I could do it without getting knocked out. And, we started doing it without anesthetic. I would just lay there. You get into the fetal position and on your side, and I would just I would wear some kind of like pajama bottoms that were like flannel or like plaid, and I would just find a little pattern on my knee and just stare at it and just trance out on it and just get to like a point of relaxation and meditation. And yeah, and then they stick the needle in. It's in there for a little while, and then they got to jerk it out, and you feel the needle go in, so that kind of sucks because it kind of stings, and you feel it like barely touch your spine, and sometimes they wouldn't get it right, and you'd kind of have to like pull open a little bit, and you could feel that, but it's not a fun story. Like I said, this story is not always going to be a, it's going to get gross sometimes or like unpleasant. But yeah, like I had while I was doing that, I was kind of like I said before, you can't go back. You can't just jump into your friendship like circle again, because life does move on. Time always passes, even though you feel like you've been taken out of time and kind of just put over. That's how I felt. Like I felt like I was taken out of the flow of time and put over in this area where time ceased to exist, and everyone moved on without me. And when I came back, I didn't just have my spot back. Like I had to reacclimate myself into the group. New relationships had started. New friendships had started. Friends that I thought didn't really get along were like besties now. And like I even had some friends that were dating now, that I was like, wait, what? You guys are dating, I had a few constant friends. One of the friends out of that group of like Matt, Chris, and all them is, a lot of them did kind of move on, and I'm not holding it against them, but they did, because that's what life does. No one is gonna, on the way outside, my immediate family, my mom, my sister, my dad, my brother. Yeah, our life, we're kind of, we kind of had to focus on all this and then get back to life as a whole. But my friends, we were all still growing up. So, I mean, like, they had, you can't leave for 2 years and then come back and act like, everything was put on hold, because it wasn't, you can't just go back, because why would you want to, really, because it's an opportunity to put it all behind you. And yeah, I mean, even to this day, I've had people come up and ask me if I'm still in remission or how are you feeling and all that. And, it's to a point that it's now a pet peeve of mine when people ask. Like if you ask, I understand like the caring about you and stuff. And I'm never going to be like, oh, God, I'm fine, But, there's if you're asking about it still after all these years, like it does kind of make you feel weak, as I'm sure, like people with an addiction or, have actually gone the extra mile and, a suicide letter has been found written by them. Like, I'm sure they have to face it on a constant basis. It's like someone asking, like, well, how are you doing? How are you feeling? How's your health? Are you in a safe place? Are you taking care of yourself? It's like, at first you understand it's endearing, it's sincere, but it gets old. Like it did for me. I can't speak for everyone, but it did for me, Like even to this day, like I have people being like, well, so is your cancer still gone? No, it wasn't my cancer, but it was I had the cancer, yes, but no, the cancer had me. The cancer was putting up with me. I wasn't putting up with it, And you kind of get sick of being treated like, the infant in the room after a few years of it. Or like people babying you and stuff like that. Like it kind of gets old. But Jared, one of the guys in the group, he's another dude I haven't talked to in years, but me and him became really close and kind of just fell out there after a while. And yeah, like everyone started going to the bigger high school because we had two high schools in my town, and that's the Broken Arrow High School, and which is like one of the biggest high schools in the nation. I don't know if that still holds true, but last I checked, it was. I never went there, because my grades were so poor, because regardless of what happened to me, I was the bad kid. I did not care about my grades. All I cared about was just hanging out with my friends and being punk rock. So even though I was a goth kid, like just basically like just living the metal lifestyle. So yeah, I didn't care about my grades. I didn't care to try. So yeah, when I came back to it, there was, after leaving school for a good year, there was really no going back as far as just like a normal school, because I didn't have the energy for it. I couldn't do it. I had been and I was going to North, but I had gotten like suspended from there so many times, just like not really for any. I was never like fought anyone, or like I never like brought drugs to school or anything. Like I'd like have a few cigarettes, which is kind of, like I said, bad kid. But I'd never did anything really horrible other than just get on my teachers' like last nerve to the point where they just wanted me out. But when it was time to go back, when I had my head on straight, because questioning your mortality does that to you. You kind of see what is valued and what isn't. And, it's, you kind of start viewing things different. But if I was going to graduate on time, as per, like when I was supposed to graduate and, graduate alongside my friends and all that, I would have to go to alternative. So I went to the Broken Arrow Alternative School. And it was because it was a block scheduling, which means you can make double the credit, so it basically kept you on point. So yeah, I was going to go from... like the big high school to the hospital bed, and instead of going back to the hospital bed, or going back from the hospital bed, it was like I was on solitary confinement and then like released into the main colony again, But I was, there with all the bad kids and stuff like that, and but they were actually really cool about it and said that. Because of my illness and because of what I was going through, I only had to attend 3 days a week, and the rest of the week, and I could pick the 3 days. Like if I wasn't feeling up to it, I didn't have to go, and so that's what I did for a while, and I mean, what kid doesn't dream about that? Like that, just get a free couple, like get a 4-day weekend, So yeah, like there for a little bit, I just wouldn't go Thursday and Friday, so I'd be off longer than I was on, and. But yeah, and that got a little bit better. But one thing I'm kind of skipping over is, like the hospital did this whole thing, which was called cancer camp. It's basically they take all the kids that have weak immune systems and are bald and all that stuff, and they stick them on this camp, like Camp Anawana. Really showing my age with that reference, but yeah, and they stick you out there for a week, but. Every single adult there is a nurse from the hospital. So, I mean, you're in good, if anything were to go wrong, it's cool, This was, that was like a very weird week for me. It was the first week in a very long time that I had been away from home. So I was kind of like freaking out, like just not being around. Of course, redheaded kid, so like I had all these allergies. I was a goth kid, but before all this, I was a goth kid, so like natural light, like I wanted to stay away from it. And first day there, man, the first day, I got this, the allergies just got to my eye, and I could not see out of my left eye, and I was just walking around with my eye closed. Then they give me some Benadryl, so like now I'm touring this whole big camp, and like I'm falling asleep as I'm doing it, And there's this dude, Michael, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Michael. My sister went with me, and there was this dude named Michael who was a little bit taller than me. Had long hair, just glasses, like kind of like ritzy looking dude, like just a good looking cat. But yeah, he ended up like crushing on my sister a lot. So he like started just flirting with her crazy, And they after and I'm just like depressed, like it just hating the fact that I'm here and like just wanting out of this camp because like I'm the oldest person there. Like I'm 16 and like all the kids are like 6 or 7, and yeah, in the hospital it's these are the true heroes. Man, I talked to this one girl that was like looked like she was from the St. Jude commercials, like little girl, just bald, not a hair on her, like bald eyebrows, bald head, like to the touch, like there wasn't even a little peach fuzz, like it was smooth. And me and her ended up like I was just sitting by this lake out there, and she sat down there too, and me, her, and a nurse just started talking, and she was like 6, but this girl talked like she was like 47. Like she was so wizened, it was so strange. And me and her sat there and held a conversation, and she was telling me about how like they were worried she wasn't going to be able to come out because like they have horses and they live out on a farm, and like she got trampled by the horses or something like that, so she's like lifts up her shirt and she's like, yeah, this is where a horse stepped on me, and she's got this big old bruise on her gut, and she's just like telling me like, oh yeah, horses are mean. And I mean, she's like knee high, just knee high from a cricket, like that whole thing. But yeah, it made just soldiers and warriors out of these kids, like these kids that I've told you about. These are the heroes. These are the ones that are going through all this illness and are in the pediatric wing in like the play area where it's like they got whatever toys is they got from the nearest Target, and and then whatever video game systems that some divorced father has donated, or like the Cub Scouts brought in or something. And they're just playing on all this stuff and having the time of their life and having the nerve to actually smile and not laugh like a genuinely, wholeheartedly, lovingly laugh. Like they had the nerve to be happy, man. And like that. And then, the doctor would call them up and be like, all right, Vanessa, it's time to head back. It's time to head back to your room. You got to do a round of steroids, or, oh, yeah, I'm worried about Stacy because her platelets are low, or something like that. And Stacy's just sitting there with you telling about, like, how great her day is and, what she's doing and what she got a new puppy at home. And, yeah, I mean, like, they just living life, And like it's not even happening, It's like seeing someone like write a song on an acoustic guitar in the middle of a hurricane. It's just like, don't you know the storm that's going on around you and inside you? You're like, yeah, but I could pay attention to that, or I could pay attention to this. Like I'd rather just kind of sit down with a cold drink and some music and just watch it come. Because it's going to come, it's going to go, and I'm still going to be here. I may be damaged, but I'm not damaged forever. It's going to shine through. I'm going to shine through. I'm the reason I'm going to make it through. Anyway. But yeah, like, they end up giving me this cart, like, at the camp, because they don't want me to leave, so I end up going to, one night I just, like, end up going to the cafeteria to see if they got any snacks, and I noticed they got a phone, so this is before cell phones and all that stuff, so, because I'm old, and, well, I don't think it was before cell phones, but, like, I didn't have one, and, so I got this phone, and I ended up calling home, and, told my mom that, like, hey, I can't do this, can you come get me, just really being a baby about it, and that's really all it was. And because we were gonna go to a theme park like within the next day, and yeah, and I was like, look, I want to be with my friends. I don't want to be doing this right now. I just want to come home. And like this dude's all up on my sister, and I've told him to knock it off, and it's just not. It's just a weird time, and so they catch wind that I called my mom on them, and so they end up asking me to stay, and they end up giving me one of those like little golf carts to drive around because I'm saying that like I can't walk around and stuff, and they said like the deal is like you cannot have anyone ride it with you, and and they're like, except for Michael. And I was like, okay, cool. You know, and like I got excited about that because if Michael sees this cart, he's going to be with me, and then he won't be all up on my sister, and like she can go hang out because they segregated, you know, the sexes, and all the girls were supposed to be with the girls, all the boys with the boys. And, you know, like he was always like trying to go hang out with her, and I'd be like, dude, that's my sister. Leave her alone, you know, and he'd be like, oh, but your sister's funny, you know, like it's just, I knew he was swooning over. And, but yeah, we get this golf cart, and I'm thinking, you know, if he's on the golf cart, then, you know, he'll be more excited about that than to hang out with her, and he was. And then, yeah, there was a few times there that he would just like, whenever we get going, just to be funny, he'd like slam his foot onto mine and make it go faster and then take his foot off. And I was finally just like, dude, stop doing that. That's going to be bad. And then, yeah, like I remember we were getting in the cart one day to like go up to like go from our bunks to the swimming pool. And like all these kids were getting ready. And one of the kids was like, hey, can I ride on the cart? And I said, no. Cause like, and they were like, oh, come on, please. And I was like, no, I can't. You know, the nurses told me not to let anyone ride on it with me. And, like, they got kind of upset. And I remember one of the kids, like, when I finally got in the cart to leave, he just jumps on the back and he will not get off. You know? And so I finally tell him, dude, just get off the back. Like, I can't, I have to get up there. And I can't go up there with you on it. Like, they said no, you know? And he hops off. I start going. And he jumps on the back, like, instantly. So I slam on the brake. Mike thinks it's a great time to, like, slam his foot on the gas. He slams his foot on the gas. I got the wheel turned, so we end up just toppling over. And the two kids one of the kids that had jumped on the back just ends up running off, like, and hiding. Because now I got this toppled over golf cart, you know. And I just get up, and I'm like, Mike, quit doing that. Stop doing that, you know. And, you know, the nurse that made the deal with me comes over, and I tell her what happened, and she's like, okay, well, yeah, we can't do the golf cart anymore. So I was just like, man, but, you know, it was Thursday. I was going home Friday. So it's just like, that sucks. Now I got to walk everywhere. Like, I was so mad. But yeah, then it came, you know, finally time to come home, and I was able to come home, you know, but yeah, like there's really not much to talk about as far as that goes. I just kind of wanted to give a shout out about it because, you know, my sister, she had a blast, and I didn't want to like get in the way of that. But, you know, she had a lot of fun because she was away from home. I can't imagine what this whole thing was like for her being the youngest in the family, but I knew it had to be hard. But yeah, she finally got a time to like just chill and to not worry about anything, you know. So yeah, I kind of wanted to give that to her, like for the whole trip, because like green was the camp color, so I dyed my hair green. I went through this thing where like once my hair grew back, I was just dyeing it different colors. Like I was just happy to have hair back, you know. And this is, you know, once my hair started coming back, so you know I just dyed it green, then dyed it blue, and so it was like a teal color. So it looked pretty fresh. But yeah, also ended up like doing the Make-A-Wish Foundation thing, but Make-A-Wish wasn't, you know, the mighty organization that it is now. When I was a kid, like the kind of the menu of things you could do was pretty slim. I think the only celebrity they had was I think Robin Williams, and you know, so they're like, well, you could, you know, they gave me this like brochure of names. Excuse me, had to get a drink. But yeah, they gave me this list of people that you could meet, and it was like all these musicians and all that. And then there was a few wrestlers on there, and I don't remember many of them, but I do remember Robin Williams coming up then, and they were like, well, do you want to meet Robin Williams? Like, sit and talk with him. And, you know, I really thought about it and was like, no, not really. Like, I kind of wanted something more permanent. I didn't want to just, like, meet someone and be like, yeah, I have cancer. Oh, yeah, yeah, it sucks. I got over it, though. All right, cool. You know, thanks for meeting me. You know, I didn't want to do something like that because it was so, like, it was just a temporary thing. It was just, you know, like, what if I end up meeting him like later in life? Just happened to meet him, you know? Then obviously that didn't happen. But you know, like, I didn't like the idea of just like using this a Make-A-Wish on meeting someone. I kind of wanted something more permanent, and you know, so been a music fan, been wanting to do like the lead singer thing for many years. So I asked if I could have my room turned into a sound studio, and they couldn't do that. They didn't even have the funds to build me a sound studio or anything like that. And you know, I was kind of aiming big. You know, they were just kind of like, well, do you want to go to Disneyland? And I was like, no, I kind of want a sound studio. And they're like, okay, well, do you want to meet Robin Williams? And I'm like, well, no, I kind of want a sound studio. But instead, they get me this this big soundboard, and just to like prove its authenticity, they show that it's they show me this picture of like Dr. Dre with this soundboard. And like it's one that he's like he was promoting and like he was a big fan of, and or it wasn't a picture of him like, buy this soundboard. It was like him just working on a soundboard, and they were just like, hey, here, that's the one he's working on. And they sent this big thing to me with like this big entertainment center, set the whole thing up, and that thing was bad. Like that thing was awesome, and they gave me like 2 days of free lessons of how to use it and how to build stuff with it. And so yeah, I wanted to, you know, create my own recording studio. And that was just the start of like a desire for like a music career. But yeah, you know, so at this point in my life though, is I didn't know what I was doing with that giant thing, and I ended up just it was just a glorified CD player, and that thing could play some CDs really well. And you know, so I just used like the CD player on it and just sang along with it. I figured out how to record some stuff. I figured out how to use it like a 19 channel soundboard. You know, I was able to like make little different like I could record guitar. It was a soundboard, so like I recorded a lot of stuff, like, but kind of just thumbed through it to figure it out. And I loved that thing. Like that thing was awesome. And you know, but never really went anywhere with it. I think to this day we only recorded like 2 CDs, and they didn't come out really that great. But this is way before like Pro Tools and all that. But yeah, now it's time to go back to school. You know, so like I start going back to school, and again was a baby about it. Like first day there, I got there, it was the normalcy was like almost too much to bear. Like I couldn't take how normal everything was. Like everyone was just kind of worried about doing their own thing, and I just kind of had to get on with my life, and that freaked me out. Like as much as I craved it, it freaked me out. It was like being a fish and being like, I've always wanted to swim, and then you get the opportunity to swim, and you're like, hell no, I'm not swimming. That's scary. You know, it's you know, so yeah, I think the very first day of school, like I came home and was just like, look, can I just go back to North? Like I don't want to go here. I don't know anyone. I don't want to do this. Take me out. And you know, and was just a big baby about it. And little did I know that that would end up being, I ended up going there for 4 years, and that was the best 4 years ever. An amazing 4 years. Like my last 4 years of school was just the greatest time in my academic life. You know, like I ended up kind of not really running the place, but ended up just having a blast. Like by the end of it, I had done all my core subjects. So my last year of school, it was just all electives and like one class. So like the only time I even did paperwork was in algebra, you know, and like the teacher I had there was like, I've never been good with numbers at all, you know, but the way he explained it, Mr. Moreau, he was the only guy that could explain it in a way that like it made a chink in my head to where like I got it. It made sense, you know. And so yeah, like that was the only class I ever had to think, and like the rest was like yearbook, and I did it like we had like a newspaper that I did the funnies for it. I just kind of like kicked it for most of the time, you know, and But the first few years was hard. It was getting back into life. At this point in time, me and Chris had started hanging out again, and I don't even know how that came to be. But yeah, we started hanging out again, and I'm trying to get acclimated back into life, and me and him start like a really good friendship, and we end up wanting to start a band together, but he's already in a band and all this stuff. So yeah, just trying to get back into, where people don't look down on me, and trying to, or not really look down, but like, don't really pity me. Don't think that I'm this weak little Fabergé egg, but just look at me as a peer. Like, that's all one could ask for, and, this was around the time that I ended up meeting one of my closest friends at the time was a dude named Andrew. And little did I know that me and Andrew's friendship would end up shaping, the next few years of my life into now. Like, of all the people I know, of all the relationships I've had, everything that I'm so proud of that I've done in my life kind of started with that guy. As far as stuff that don't involve like me getting over cancer and all that. But Andrew, God, I love that kid. Like, me and him don't talk as much as we used to by far. Like, I think first time me and him ever hung out, we ended up hanging out for 3 days straight. And we were inseparable for the longest time. He was my best friend. I used to pick him up every morning for school. Some nights he would just stay the night at my house, and but yeah, another guy I'm leaving out of the equation is a dude named David. David was also, he lived in my neighborhood, and me and him, like, when I was trying to get out back there in the world, me and him started hanging out more and more and more, and we got closer and closer and closer. And then by the time Alternative started, like, the first 6 weeks sucked, but then they got new kids in. All the new people started coming in, and like 6 weeks into me being there, David started going there. So I was like, okay, one of my friends from, around the house is here, so now I'm a little bit more comfortable. And that just kind of made me more comfortable with school. And, and I ended up doing fine because, like, me and David were inseparable. And then a few years, I think like a year later, me and Andrew met, and then me and him were like inseparable. I was still hanging out with David a lot, but like I kind of... Like, he was going, everyone just goes different directions at some point. And I started hanging out with Andrew more. And, like, Andrew and me, I think the very first time we ever talked was, I was talking to a friend in class about Devil May Cry. And, I was just like, oh, dude, have you ever played Devil May Cry? And Andrew just piped up from across the room and was like, Devil May Cry, I love Devil May Cry, oh my God. And, we start talking, and I was like, dude, a real dorky conversation. I just remember it like the back of my hand. I was just like, dude, I'm going back through it, but I can't remember where to get the shotgun. And he was like, oh, no, you remember the room where you first meet the ghosts? The shotgun's in there, You hear that? That's my timer. So, yeah. But yeah, all the while I got this friendship with Andrew building. I have this, this whole thing with David that I've only really touched on. I'm just kind of like touching on those a little bit now because I knew we were at like 3 minutes to go before, the alarm went off, and I had to, switch gears a little bit. So we're going to talk on that more. I'm going to tell you more about, kind of living a life where not saying other people don't know what's important, but I'd see the problems that they would have, and I want to tell them, like, if you had any idea how little this mattered, compared to the big picture, then you wouldn't be so worried about it. Like, if you could have seen what I have seen, then this would not mean so much to you. But, I guess next time we'll talk about, because Andrew was a big part of, like, the BA House days, because... Like I said, he introduced me to a whole other group of friends that I hold today. And there's so many pivotal members of this story that I haven't even touched on. And I think that may just be like a friendship episode where I talk about that. But yeah, a lot kind of happened in just that little bit of time where I was just trying to get healthy again. Relationships started, ended. But I guess next time we're going to talk a little bit more about that because, we still have a lot to go because I still haven't started, getting into the band stuff. I haven't gotten into Critical Nonsense, which is like the song you heard at the beginning of this episode that you hear at the beginning of every episode is doing music with them. And we haven't even scratched the surface of all the stuff I did. I mean, it was 2001 to 2000, 4 years, a lot happened. But we're going to put a pin in it right there, and we're going to talk about getting into the BA House days next time. But there's one thing that I do want to talk about before we go here. We're at 50 minutes, so we got, I don't know, maybe like 10 minutes. I'll try and keep this one short and sweet. Here's the thing that I want to talk about. It's this thing called seasonal anxiety, or seasonal triggered depression, as some may know it as. When I got sick both times, it was around this time of year. It's usually around August that I still, when it starts getting cold outside, I start getting worried about myself. Because the last 2 times I got real bad sick was around this time of year. So once it starts getting cold, there's a voice in my head that says there's something wrong. And just kind of like if you eat at 12 o'clock every single day, then eventually at 12 o'clock you are going to start getting hungry. Like your body is just going to naturally do that. Here's the thing, guys, is when you go through the hard battles, if they're around the same time of year every year, eventually your body gets used to that and you start getting into this, your body starts going into, batten down the hatches, get the ammo ready, get all the weapons ready, lock and load, because it's almost time to go back to war. You start thinking that, even if you're not thinking it, you subconsciously feel like there's a fight coming because of the time of year it is. Not because there is a fight coming. And that's what anxiety really is the feeling of being attacked with no outward assailant that you can find. You can't find an assailant. But it's a storm. It's something that some people face every single year. I face 12 years now, guys. I still face this every single year around this time of year. Doing it right now. You worry about, if you're getting sick again, every little pain, every little feeling that you feel. Anytime around this time of year, if I get a bump, that all it is it, I'll get worried about it. If I sit on my leg too long and it falls asleep, I will actually sit there and wonder why my leg's asleep, completely forgetting that I just sat on it for an hour, like I've done now. So it's probably going to be asleep. I know the cause, but it still freaks me out. If you start getting cold, you start getting sick of any kind. Like if I do, this is what I start thinking of. And, and I start, it doesn't even have to be a bad thought. You can just be freaked out. I have it worked out. I don't know if anyone really knows this, but I have it worked out with my doctor now that around this time of year, I go to a psychologist, and it's around this time of year that, we usually do once every 3 months around, for the next 3 months, October, November, December. It's usually once a month just to check on me. I've had to go up in doses of anti-anxiety and antidepressant medication, up the milligrams on them. I've had to work myself through some really bad anxiety attacks many, many times. I remember one year, and it's always something different. I remember one year, a few years back, that I was just convinced I was going to have a heart attack. It was just going to happen. Every little feeling in my chest. Like if I pushed on my chest and it kind of hurt, it didn't matter that I was like pushing into my chest. I'd be like, well, that wouldn't be so sensitive if I wasn't fixing to have a heart attack. I was just convinced. I was always, am I breathing enough? If I lay down, am I short of breath? And I got myself worried to death to where I couldn't even think straight. I remember sitting at the Thanksgiving table sweating, sweating like a whore in church, like sitting there acting like I had, if you looked over at me, you'd think I just murdered someone and had hit him under the table and we were sitting here eating and I was fixing to get found out because I'm sweating, I'm freaking out, people are like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. Well, why do you ask? Like all twitchy and just convinced like I wasn't taking it slow enough and I'm about to have a heart attack. I didn't have any reason to think this. I didn't have a reason to think that my heart was going to give out any second. But I was just convinced that it was. Like, I don't know why. I would be sitting there playing a video game and then suddenly be like, oh, God, okay, I'm here we go. And I just kept thinking I was going to pass out. Because that's what anxiety does to you. It makes you think. It's feeling like you're being assaulted or that there's something coming for you. Here's the best way I can describe it. An anxiety attack for those who don't know. And this is like, I use this metaphor because I live in the South. But imagine you are sitting there minding your own business, watching TV, doing laundry, or eating, or reading, or just, your favorite show's on. Suddenly, the little recording comes on that everyone loves, is like the little loud beeping and like pulls up and it says, this is a drill. This is a required weekly drill. Nothing is going on, but here's what's going on. Or it's an Amber Alert, or it's that the tornado warning has been issued for the following counties. And you sit there and say, oh man, okay, well there goes this evening, because now you can't just go back to watching your show because you have to, you have to watch this thing. You got to make sure you're, that it's not going to be damaging. So you turn it on to the news, and on the really bad nights, there's stuff happening. There's something happening every few seconds. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And you wish it wasn't happening, and you wish you could just go to sleep, or you wish you could just ignore it and it goes away. But it's something you have to watch, and it's something you have to go through because there's no stopping it. It's coming, And then if it gets really, really, really bad, all the lights go out, and, you can't see. Or you have to get all the lanterns together, or you have to build a little fort in your bathroom tub, with blankets over you and stuff like that, or with the radio going. You have to gather up all the stuff. I've had to do that numerous occasions, like get my shoes on and get a blanket, get all my essentials, like all the medications I have to take, and my laptop, or or like a few bottles of water or something, and just set it all in the bathroom. Get all the if you have a dog, cat, what have you, just set them all in the do a head count, and or stay strong for everyone. And you just sit there, and so basically when it gets really, really bad, you have to bunker down and just wait for it to pass. And sometimes it'll get really bad outside, really ugly outside, to where like you look outside and you can't see through it. It's just, and it looks chaotic. Like it doesn't make sense. It's, stuff is blowing all around, and you're worried you're going to get hurt, and you're worried something's going to happen to you. But all you can do is the only defense you have in this life at the moment is just this stupid blanket in a bathtub because someone said it was a good idea to get into a shatterable bathtub with a mirror in the room, And you can't do anything but wait for the storm to pass. You can't stop it. You can't go out there and yell at it to make it go away. You can't tell it you're not afraid. You just have to take the precautions and then let the storm come and let it pass. And if you get through it, and it doesn't cause you that much damage, then, then it just subsides. It just slowly goes away. And some nights are worse than others. Some nights is like that was one, here comes another. And some nights it's it happens and you're good, or it's not so bad. And it was just like a slight tornado watch and nothing ever really became of it than some rain, but you still had to like take your attention away. That's an anxiety attack right there. I mean, that's the best way I can explain it. It's this thing that when it happens, you feel it. You feel the onset of it, as my mom says. You feel it fixing to happen, and you don't want it to happen. But if you try to stop it, then that's going to make it worse, because that's going to put you in more danger. The best thing you can do is to bunker down and know that this isn't your first time. It will not be the last. And you just have to wait for the storm to pass over. You have to wait for it to come, be on top of you, and then, or like be in the middle of it, and then it leave. This time of year is tornado season. For me anyway. I get a little bit worried. I get a little bit just more on edge and just a little bit more scared of things. And January is usually when I'm on the rise. So, once the new year starts, it's good. And it sucks to have seasonal depression or seasonal anxiety, because this should be a happy time. This should be a time of joy and love and thankfulness for being alive. Hey, you made it another year. Like that's a great thing. But for some of us lucky few that have to deal with this, it's our heart knows that it's supposed to be joyous, but our brain says there's a fight coming, because we're so kind of locked into a routine that no, this is around the time that it's bad. Some people, you ask anyone that's had like kind of a knee surgery or anything like that, or like a replacement part, their knee will start hurting when it gets cold outside. So they have this like kind of internal, they can tell you what kind of weather it's going to be because their knee's hurting or something like that. It's just sometimes a really hard time for us to get through. Maybe we lost a loved one around this time of year. Maybe we just what this really brings up is the pain we really went through, the time that we really had to put on an APB and do a calling all cars and get all the support and all the help we could. And when you wanted nothing more than to just be happy. Here's the thing is, when it comes to all that, you need to talk to someone. You need to find someone that is willing to listen and just sit there with them and say, hey, look, I'm having a hard time this year. Even if you have no reason to have a hard time this year, that's not what it's about. Saying, nothing has to happen for you to have a hard time. That's what some people forget. We can just be sitting there and think too much, because idle hands are the devil's playground. Like, if we got too much time on our hands, I'm not saying work yourself to death. I'm just saying that, if you got too much time and enough time to be stuck in your head, that 9 times out of 10, anytime I'm bummed out, that's exactly why. It has nothing to do with how the day's going or, what I've accomplished, what I've failed at. It's basically I got stuck in my own head for a little too long, and I talked myself into some kind of problem. I'm not good enough because of this. I'm a failure because of that. I'm weak still after all this time because of what I've been through and not facing it. These are perfectly fine thoughts. Okay, you can't account for every little thought that pops in your head. You can't stop every little image that pops in there. Some of the things just happen. It's what you do. It's how you filter that out. And here's the thing: is there's nothing wrong with you. Okay, you are just wired different. You're not a humbug. You're not a grouch. You're not a buzzkill. You're not this depressed little, like, poor, pitiful me during the holidays. It's just the fact that you are a warrior in a time of peace. I'm a big history buff for, like, the samurai and stuff like that. And one thing that I found very interesting is there's a lot of books written by, samurai in the different eras of the samurai that just they would write, like, books and books and books and books and poems and poems. And the reason they did that wasn't to get their message out there. It was basically because, like, the time of the samurai was done, because the samurai, how they serve their purpose is they're just warriors. They are just there to fight, and there were no fights to be had. So what do you do with all the knowledge? What do you do when you are built to fight and there's not a fight to be had? You're going to sit there like an engine that has no reason to run, and you're going to sit there and, like, you're a war machine. Like, you're a war machine when there's no war. So all you're going to do is sit there and just wait for a fight that's not going to come. And everything inside you is telling you that there's a fight coming because of the weather change. Like that, okay, well, here we go. Where most people are going into a happy time, I hope they enjoy themselves. I have a fight to go through. And that's not the case. We don't always have a fight that we have to get through. But the thing is when we don't have an outward assailant, we turn all that assault inward, and we end up assaulting ourselves. It's a very hard thing to do. Like, that's the thing, is like when we point the guns out, and, like, when there's nothing on the outside to shoot, we point the guns at ourselves. We start saying, okay, well, then it must be in here. It must be in our hearts, in our minds. But we don't. We never follow through with that. Like, we always follow through and say, like, well, that's because there's something wrong with me. Oh God, what's wrong with me? And you start thinking you're broken because everyone else is having this joyous, like, happy time, but on the inside you're struggling, and it doesn't mean that it just means you're wired different, man. Like, it does not mean there's anything wrong with you. That's where the problem lies, is we sit there and think there's something wrong with us. So we start presenting ourselves with problems and questions when there's no answer to them, because it's questions that we're coming up with. But the way, just like this show goes, guys, like, if you are dealing with any kind of problem right now, even if it's just the fact that the weather changed and you are having a hard time because you lost a loved one around this time, or every time this year something bad happens to you in your heart or in your head, if this season just reminds you of something, or you're just scared and you don't have anything to be scared of, nothing is wrong with you, okay? Like, I'm not saying, hey, there's nothing wrong, so don't be scared. I'm saying be scared. Like, it's perfectly okay. It's perfectly fine to be upset around this time of year. Just because of the time of year does not mean it's, that it's not valid. Your pain and, your feelings, your heart is very valid. What you go through, maybe not a lot of people understand, but you can talk to someone and don't worry about, them thinking you're weird, because you're not weird, okay? You are just wired differently. You are wired to fight. That's all it is. Because if you were fighting right now, like if it was an actual fight, maybe like you walk by a burning house, you'd be the one to send in there, because you're the one that can deal with that high stress and high anxiety, because you put yourself through it daily. And you are just... That's it. You're just a warrior that has nothing to fight for, or nothing to fight, rather. You always have something to fight for, but you don't always have something to fight. But I'll tell you, if you don't say anything about it, it's going to bundle up. It's going to, you're not going to get it out, and you're going to end up working yourself into full-blown anxiety attacks. You're going to end up alienating yourself and getting real lonely. And maybe crying, maybe you cry more than people realize. Maybe you're really a happy-go-lucky person, and everyone thinks that, you're the person to cry to, and you're so strong, and you never, there's no chinks in your armor, But secretly, you're very depressed, or secretly, you cry yourself to sleep a lot. And you just don't want to freak anyone out around you by telling him this. And, maybe you're just so worried that, well, I don't need to bother them. Like, that's what my mom does, is I don't need to bother them with my problems. I can handle my own stuff. I can help everyone with their stuff, but I can handle my own stuff. Or they would just rather not get looked at differently. Well, I'm here to tell you that I will never look at you differently. I will never I will never think of you as a strange person, a weird person, an awkward person. What I'm going to look at you as you. Just because you're this way, because and the reason I do that, even though I don't know you, is because I'm the same way. It's all of our originality that makes us one, that makes us so alike. Because I've said it before, is that if everyone that had a problem in their life, it works for this too. If everyone with seasonal anxiety and seasonal depression shot a firework off tonight at the exact same time, it would light up the sky. Because you are not alone. It's in our uniqueness that we are all together. Because some people just have a harder time with this time of year. And me, like I've said, 12 years later, I still have a hard time with this time of year. Some years are a little bit easier. Some aren't. This year has been, just a little bit, like doing this show, it's very cleansing, it's very purging, and it's very helpful to me personally. And I think, the four of you that listen to it. But this year does, because of all this, it has brought up other things and, brought up old fears that I'm going to sit here and fight, and I'm going to sit here and stand up against. Not to stop it, but to let it just pass me. Because that's all it is, guys. It's a storm. And once you realize that the high anxiety isn't something that you need to stop, isn't something, you should look it up. Like, one thing that gave me peace, what a slim chance it is to actually pass out from having an anxiety attack. Like the chances of losing consciousness are actually pretty minimal. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, because it's not really the anxiety attack. The anxiety attack gives us, like, we start breathing faster, we start breathing lighter, and that makes us lightheaded, and then we start thinking we're going to pass out because we're lightheaded, when really we're feeling lightheaded because we're going, we're like breathing so fast and so short. But if we can, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to post a video here pretty soon that is just like a companion to an anxiety attack. Just something you can watch to get you through it. There's no... If you find something that's like top 10 ways to avoid an anxiety attack, here's the best way to avoid an anxiety attack. Don't try to avoid it. Let it come, because it's just a storm. This time of year, for me, it's just a storm. I feel a storm coming. Whether it comes or not, that sounded bad. Whether the storm shows up or not, I'm expecting a really bad storm. That doesn't mean there's going to be one. It just means that I am wired to really fortify and build a stone wall around my house, in my heart, and get ready for war, even when we're in a time of peace. So you need to, if you're having any of these issues, if it's down to anxiety, or if it's down to depression, if it's down to you're feeling a little bit more suicidal and alone, here's how you feel not alone. You talk to someone. Anybody. Just someone you feel comfortable with. And screw what they have to say about it. And for better or for worse. If they give you motivational thoughts, or like a good way to get through it, that's always good, but maybe what you really need is just an ear. You just need maybe you just need to tell someone, because you just need to let this stuff out. You need to not so someone else can hear it and tell you what to do. It's so you can hear it, so you can hear yourself talk about it. Because hearing yourself talk about it is that. Because here's another thing, guys, is you are not your inner monologue. As much as we want to believe that, that's something I've struggled with for a long time. Like, the inner monologue you are having right now is not you. That is a small piece of you. You know, what is there? 3 versions of everybody. There's who they are, who they want to be, and who they see themselves as. And who we see ourselves as is the inner monologue. Like, that's how we view everything. That's the voice that has no voice. You know, it does not hold any merit. It's you know, it's not right about everything. You've been in your inner monologue your entire life. How many times has it been right? It's the easiest way to get worked up is when we let that inner monologue control us. You know, but if we let our real soul out by speaking, that's how the soul gets out, is by our words. I know we're going on a little 15 minutes over an hour, but that's how our soul gets out. That's how we release our feeling. We release our heart by speaking. The mightiest of weapons swings from the chin. That's our words, our voice, and it heals us. It gets all this stuff out. It's when we tell someone about it. If you want to just sit someone down and damn what they think of it, just be like, hey, look, I'm having a little bit of a hard time. It's just this year, I think why I'm having a hard time is because it's what I've been through. And this is the time of year that has kind of been bad for me for a little while. That it's always something, like the real bad stuff is usually saved to the end of the year. Or this reminds me of when my dad passed, or when my girlfriend broke up with me, or when my husband cheated on me, or, when I was left for dead, when I was slept under a van because I was addicted to heroin, whatever, it does not matter what anyone thinks of it. What matters is that you say it. Just say the reason you're going through it. And let me tell you something. I've said it several times on the show. You are not weird. You are not wired wrong. You're not even insane. You're just a warrior in a time of peace. That's it. That's all you are. You're a savage wolf that is now living in a house. You're ready to fight for yours, and it's time to fight in your mind, but in your heart, it's not. So get it out there. Talk to someone. Tell me about it. Hit me up on here on my Facebook page if you want. I've had so many people. I said something about this very briefly on Facebook. Immediately had a friend that and her, my God, she ended up hitting me with her story, and I'm planning on telling that here pretty soon. But yeah, that's what this channel is. And she, another friend said it to me, is that I'm starting a support group. I want to hear your stories. I want you to tell other people. Because that's what makes us truly unique and also truly united. Because I thought I was weird for the longest time because of all this, and turns out it's got a diagnosis because it's actually pretty common. So, get out there, guys. Tell your story because it will help you. Don't tell it so someone else can hear it. That's a good reason to do it, because it's going to be like where I think I just laid there crying and throwing up. Someone else saw that and said, you are so courageous and so strong because of what you've been through. I don't know what, strong and courageous looks like when they're looking at me, but I know what it looks like when I'm looking at one of these 6-year-olds that dares to smile when they got a bald head and they're in the pediatric wing of oncology. When I see someone who's married and, has a beautiful family, but is still dealing with this horrible illness called cancer, or whatever illness that has stricken them, and they still have the nerve to smile. Or it's just when this time of year hits and we're just having a harder time than usual because it just brings up all the bad stuff. It outroots all those old fears and feelings, and we are all unique in what bugs us and what we go through, but we are all the same in the fact that we are all just a little bit flawed. So that's my story so far of my battles and my wars. I hope my story helps you. Now go, help someone with yours.